Okay, MrMostDaysOff, now we're ready for the TeePublic ad.
Head over to tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly right now to support our show. Get yourself some Best Darn Diddly merchandise and help grow our podcast. I messed up there. Can I get another take?
Okay, just a second.
Out of the way, amateur. Hey, it's Krusty. Go to tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly. Hey, it's Krusty. Go to patreon.com/bestdarndiddly. Go to popthreads.com and save 15% with the discount code Simpsons. Hey, it's Krusty. Go to bestdarndiddly.com to get all your podcast needs from the greatest show on earth. Learn from a professional, kid.
All right, Krusty, we're ready for your take. Krusty?
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons, or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today, dun dun dun, we have a mystery on our hands. We're calling in Scooby-Doo and the gang to figure out this one. And of course, joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Richie theWizKid. How you doing today, Rich?
It started off like any other day. Sitting alone in my office, drinking a bottle of scotch, smoking a cigar, and then the Scooby Gang came in. Seemed like they were in trouble, like they needed help with the mystery. Then who better to call than the Best Darn Diddly guys? I'm doing great, Miles. How are you?
I feel like I'm ready to solve a mystery. I think we should start advertising, maybe in a newspaper or the Newsies, if you will.
I mean, I hear those things are everywhere.
Potentially, they could write a children's series of books about the various mysteries we solve around the neighborhood. Call us Best Darn Diddly Brown.
I was thinking more of the Private Eye myself.
Yeah, I got your noir feel that you were going for. I was picturing you speaking in black and white, for what it's worth.
I love that. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, we have quite a mystery on our hands today. I don't know if it's even been solved to this day. Maybe it's an unsolved mystery. But you guys know we got plenty to talk about. As always, let me officially throw it back to my partner. Not my partner in crime. At least that's what we're going with. The man, the myth, the super dude. It is Miles.
May he rest in peace. So we are talking about Who Shot Mr. Burns, Part 1 today, which originally aired on May 21st, 1995. And before we start jumping into the episode, there is a lot to talk about going around or going on at the time of this episode, because this was, in fact, a real-life contest, Richie. This was something that they did over the summer between the break on Season 6 and Season 7, where they had fans who were able to submit their response of who they thought did it, and if they got the clues and were able to eliminate the various characters for the right reason, there was actually prizes involved that we are definitely going to talk about.
I actually submitted an answer to that fan contest.
Did you?
Yep.
Ooh, fun. Who did you...
It'll come about in the episode. I'll tell at a certain point. I'll tell you why I thought it was a certain person.
Perfect.
I was wrong.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, I was all about the mystery. I think I was in 5th grade when this episode aired, and I had another Simpsons fan at my school, and he's one of those guys that I never pegged for a fan, and once we found out we were both fans, we talked about it nonstop. And we both came up with a theory, and I submitted it into the contest.
Super cool, man. That's awesome that you had some firsthand experience with this event. I did not submit a response, mostly because I don't know that I caught this one live when it first aired. And secondly, I probably would not have been smart enough to even attempt a theory at that time.
Well, if I remember correctly, I couldn't remember specifically if they said from the get-go that somebody was going to shoot him. I think they did. I couldn't remember if that was before or after, because especially with the chalkboard gag, you know that there's a mystery involved. So I'm pretty sure they advertised it as somebody's going to shoot Mr. Burns and you need to help us figure out who it is.
I think I remember seeing those promos back in the day, and yeah, I believe it was revealed that he was going to be shot, or at least the episode title was Who Shot Mr. Burns, so it kind of puts it out there. Speaking of that, this whole episode came to be because Matt Groening was trying to come up with a way to stir up some publicity. So he literally just wanted to do a publicity stunt. And one day in the writer's room, he just kind of pitched the idea of like, I don't know, maybe we should like shoot Mr. Burns or something. Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein happened to be in the room that day and instantly thought that was a fantastic idea for an episode. So an interesting little event that we have going on with this episode. The writers, Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, openly admit they got the idea directly from Matt Groening's statement, and this was written by them under the direction or the show running of David Merkin, though we know in just a few short episodes that responsibility is going to change over to these writers, and they are going to take over at some point for the duration of Season 7 and Season 8.
Oh, we're coming into an end to the Merkin timeline.
Yeah, but I think there's going to be a lot of good stuff ahead as well. I think Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, I mean, they have a lot of bits that you can already see, just some of the interactions with Skinner and Chalmers and some of the old-timey words that Burns and Abe Simpson use in this episode are things that are more known to be Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein things that they really enjoy doing. So you can already start to get a sense that a change is coming.
A change is a-coming. Mm-hmm. No more sunlight.
Exactly, yes.
What happens when the sun moves? Does the dial move with it? I had too many questions about that.
I'm sure that the science on this one would need some help to try to wrap our minds around, we'll say. But moving on, let's go ahead and dive into this episode a lot. We have a lot to talk about. There are so many clues that we're going to stop and talk about during this episode. I really hope it doesn't get too long because I think it'll be confusing if we have to make this a 2-part podcast and it'll be Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 1, and Part 2. So let's get going.
We don't have a guest today, so hopefully that won't happen.
The chalkboard gag, as Richie already alluded to, gets things started right off the bat with, "This is not a clue." Or is it?
I mean, technically it is the word clue, so I don't know.
And we get a couch gag that we see the Simpsons family running through a repeating background of their own living room. We start off the episode with Seymour Skinner outside of Springfield Elementary School coming through the double doors.
Is there nothing so intoxicating as the school hallway at early morn? School normally doesn't smell so rank.
We see Skinner kind of sniff under his arm.
Wash basin fresh. That funk must be coming from one of the classrooms.
And we see Skinner find the 4th grade gerbil super dude. And unfortunately, it seems he has passed away at some point over the weekend.
Crushed by his own water bottle.
Poor super dude. So Skinner takes this dead gerbil to groundskeeper Willie and tells him he needs to be given a proper burial.
And Skinner's like attached to this gerbil. Like he's generally upset that Super Dude has lost his life.
I mean, Super Dude was a great class pet, Richie. I mean, think about all the great times they had together. Like the time he got lost in the air conditioning duct and the time that Ralph tried to eat him.
Well, is he the same? I wonder if it's like Super Dude 2 that tries to escape through the school whenever they get frozen over.
It very well could be, yes. The savior of Snow Day.
You're lucky you're getting a decent burial. Me own father got thrown in the bog.
And Groundskeeper Willie is actually like backbreaking, digging a hole with a shovel in the graveyard at this point. It's kind of a funny image, especially paired with the fact that it's better than his own family got. Poor Willie.
But don't we see his mom and father in the episode where they go to find Nessie? We see Willie's family, like he talks to his family over there. So I don't know. We're gonna have to remember this line in the future because there might be a little loophole here.
We'll have to see if maybe there's a small continuity issue that comes into play.
Gah! In Scotland, everyone is your father. And your cousin.
There's still a lingering smell throughout the classroom, and the kids are kind of getting annoyed by it. They're having to pinch their nose. I love Nelson announces that it smells like one of the Van Houtens, to, of course, Milhouse declares it does not. But then the floor actually starts to rumble beneath Bart and Milhouse's desk. I love Ralph here. Miss Hoover, the floor is shaking.
Ralph, remember the time you thought the...
And as she's saying this to Ralph, who she assumes is just making it up, of course, the floor explodes with an oil eruption. It's a funneling... yeah, it's just a mess of oil that comes out right between Bart and Milhouse.
No, that was Ralph that you see in that one, I thought. Different
Oh,
classroom.
yep, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Ralph gets exploded by it too, so it's coming all over the school.
Poor Ralph. He'll be fine.
While oil is erupting all over the school, at the Springfield nuclear power plant, we see Burns having a meeting.
Now, before we adjourn, gentlemen, I have one last matter of utmost importance. I need to send this parcel with the profit projections to Pete Porter in Pasadena, and it absolutely, positively has to be there overnight.
And then we get a sequence where we follow this package, and it's traveled from person to person, and this tongue twister of a destination is just kind of being repeated in a very funny way. We get Pete Porter, pass it on. Pasadena, promptly. Package to parcel processing, pronto. And it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
Forgot Pretende asked for a highly pressing package of power plant profit projections for Pete Porter in Pasadena.
Priority?
Precisely. That's a tongue twister. You should start using it whenever you're warming up, Miles.
There you go. I'll learn that one. Instead of lion face, lemon face, it will be that.
Promptly.
Promptly and precisely. When the package finally arrives at the power plant, it's actually Homer who gets it and brings it to Mr. Burns.
My name is the return address, you senseless dunderpate. Smithers, who is this nincompoop?
And this is where Homer starts to realize that his boss yet again doesn't realize him. Oh, I've worked here for 10 years and my boss doesn't even know my name. Well, that's gonna change right now. My name is Homer J. Simp. Dink! Ow! Son! And it turns out that Mr. Burns had actually hit a button on his desk to cause a 1,000-gram weight to fall and hit Homer in the head.
Sounded large when I ordered it. I can't make hide nor hair of these metric booby traps. In case you don't remember, 1,000 grams is not a lot.
It's a very small weight. Yeah, not much at all, actually. But again, the metric system confuses us all in America. We just don't get it. It's too simplistic and easy to understand for us to comprehend.
And as you spoke about, I love the dialogue of Burns in this scene with words like nincompoop and booby traps. It fits him very well.
Yeah, I like a lot of the dialogue with Burns, and like I said, even more so later, we're going to get even more of it in a large scene of just lots and lots of repetition, so it's pretty impressive when you think about them having to write that. But for now, we actually cut back to the school. We see that Seymour Skinner is assessing the damage on the rooftop of the school when he's joined by Superintendent Chalmers. Why is it when I heard the word school and the word exploded, I immediately thought of the word Skinner?
Ooh.
And then we see a chemist actually pop up there.
Congratulations, gentlemen! Your custodian struck oil. You're standing on top of the richest elementary school in the state. We also found this.
They find a poor old oil-coated super dude in the oil line.
Thank you, super dude.
And he just hurls the carcass off the roof.
Yeah, it's like a sad moment up until when he chucks it. Like, what? Willie's gonna have to pick it up anyways.
Burns actually reads of this news of Springfield Elementary striking it rich with oil while he is, well, I guess you could say working out. He's at the fitness center for, what was it? I don't know. It's basically Smithers is actually doing all the work, and Mr. Burns is just sitting there. But he learns of some terrible, terrible news.
He learns that an awful school is awfully rich, as the newspaper headline suggests.
Burns is upset by the news that someone other than himself has lots of money, and while Smithers is clearly exhausted, he asks if they can be done exercising, or actually he's like, "Sir, have you had enough exercise for the morning?"
No, let's go another 20 miles.
Smithers is like groaning and struggling, and Burns actually gets off the bike. He's not even sitting on it anymore, so it's really just
He's playing pinball in the background.
Yeah, he goes and plays video games, even worse.
He's upset that the oil's in the hands of those Betsy bleeding hearts.
After Burns' workout, he meets up with some of his employees in the elevator, and he recognizes most of them.
Hello, Lenny, Carl, Guillermo. Hello,
And Homer is actually waving his hands back and forth, pointing to his name tag that clearly says that he is Homer J. Simpson. Mind you, Guillermo is wearing one of the nuclear power plant suits that have the head mask, so you couldn't even really see his face, and he still recognized him.
Homer's even got a hard hat on that says H. Simpson, which I don't ever remember seeing that before, and it's so obvious.
I love, though, when Burns leaves, Homer's clearly upset, and Lenny and Guillermo both try to, kind of calm him down. Don't take it so hard, Homer. He's always screwing up people's names.
Yeah, at the picnic, he thought my son Ronaldo was my son Rolando. Can you believe that? Poor Homer.
This beginning of this episode does a lot of cutting back and forth between our kind of heroes and villains in a lot of ways, and to some extent. But really, I guess there's no hero in this story. But we get Skinner, who is trying to brag to Superintendent Chalmers about the schools being in the headlines. However, he tries to cover up just one word with his hand. The newspaper actually reads, "Awful school is awful rich," but Skinner is covering the first awful. What's that say under your hand there?
Oh, it's an unrelated article.
An unrelated article?
Mm-hmm.
Within the banner headline?
Yes. Now, to redirect our conversation slightly, I had a few ideas on how to spend this oil money.
Well, we could give each student a full college scholarship.
Oh, mercy. Seriously, though.
So, there's a lot here. This is what I was talking about, where Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein love to do these Skinner and Chalmers conversations. We're going to get to a very famous episode, I believe next season, if I'm not mistaken, where they're going to talk about the Aurora Borealis at this time of year.
Contained entirely within your kitchen? Yes. Can I see it? No.
But this is just a little kind of glimpse of what's to come with these two characters in these seasons ahead, which, again, I'm really excited for, as much as I've loved the darkness and surrealness of Dave Merkin.
And we've talked about it for 2 seasons of the show now, about how you kind of see those little stamped moments from the showrunners where they have to differ from even Matt Groening sometimes on how they want to proceed.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to see their psychology, each of their personalities, and how they present it onto the show.
Exactly.
Skinner and Chalmers are actually trying to draw up a budget, though, and they're taking faculty suggestions.
I want a crystal bucket for my slop water and a brand new filthy blanket.
And we see Skinner stamps it approved. The cafeteria staff is complaining about the mice in the kitchen. I want to hire a new staff.
Stamp approved. I'd like to start a jazz program for the music department. We've got a really great instructor lined up.
And we see Lisa opens the door and Tito Puente walks through, who both Skinner is obviously a big fan of by his reaction, as is Matt Groening. Matt Groening is a huge fan. For those who don't know, Tito Puente is actually a very famous Latin jazz performer. He's actually, I believe, titled the King of Latin Jazz. He was born in the 1920s or 30s. I should know that.
One of those decades.
He was born in 1923. And he's just recorded more tracks than you can even name, though he did pass away back in May of 2000. But he'll always be immortalized both with his music career and his appearance on The Simpsons.
Thank you, Tito Puente.
Mm-hmm. Lisa explains that Tito's ready to give up the drudgery of the professional mambo circuit and settle into a nice teaching job.
Man, it would be my pleasure. Lisa has told me all your students are as bright and dedicated to jazz as she is.
Let's go now, Mr. Puente.
Approved, stamp.
We next get Ralph Wiggum with the best suggestion of all. Chocolate microscopes?
Approved. You know those guitars that are like double guitars, you know?
And approved. And last but not least, we actually get Skinner, who just wants some more rubber stamps that also get approved. So this school is spending money like they got it, and it's because they do. Oil is very, very lucrative.
But it hasn't actually been oiled yet.
Interesting. I wonder how many other people may have thought that very thought, Richie. There's one last person that needs to see Skinner for a proposal, though, and we hear Skinner's secretary over the intercom.
Principal Skinner, this is your secretary. There is one last student here to see you.
That's odd. I don't have a secretary. Or an intercom. But send him in. And we see Mr. Burns, who's disguised as Jimbo, enter the room.
Ahoy there, Dean. I understand you're taking suggestions from students, eh?
He tries to, cool guy sit on the corner of the desk, but he groans because he's in pain, because he's a fragile old man.
Well, me and my fourth form chums think it would be quite corking if you'd sign over your oil well to the local energy concern.
Mr. Burns?
Bah!
It was naive of you to think I'd mistake this town's most prominent 104-year-old man for one of my elementary school students.
I want that oil well! I've got a monopoly to maintain. I own the electric company and the waterworks, plus the hotel on Baltic Avenue.
That hotel's a dump, and your monopoly's pathetic. I love this so much. They argue back and forth, and Burns makes it clear that he wants that oil, while Skinner makes it clear that he's not going to get it. He actually calls him a black-hearted scoundrel, and Burns suggests that he's going to have to attack him, but then he just flails at him.
I must have that oil. Smithers, help me subdue this beast.
Sorry, sir. This was all I could find. And he starts firing a stapler at Seymour Skinner, and they're just falling on his desk. Please don't waste those.
I have to tell you, man, I have done this since the day I saw this episode. Whenever I see a stapler, I do this at work all the time at every job I've ever had, where if somebody needs the stapler or someone's acting bad, I'll pick up the stapler and then I'll shoot a couple out and then I'll go, please don't waste those. And people always look at me like I'm the strangest person.
It might be because you're doing both parts, but I get it.
Yep. They don't respond though.
Yep.
This is the scene that spurned my idea. I thought Jimbo was going to be the one to shoot Mr. Burns. He's not that important of a character, and Mr. Burns literally stole his look and tried to impersonate him. So this is the first scene where me and my buddy back in elementary school started thinking, maybe it's Jimbo.
Interesting. Okay, I could see that theory.
I've got another scene where it kind of plays into it at the end.
Sure. I think I know exactly what you're talking about. Are you okay, man? And he's like, I'm not going to bother to respond with an answer, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that makes total sense. I dig that. Oddly enough, there is actually a major clue in this very sequence, in this scene, and it's that we get a reveal on the back wall behind Seymour Skinner. We see his diploma, and it actually reveals that his name is W. Seymour Skinner, and that W is going to come into play a lot going forward. Also, another clue that we already missed talking about earlier when we were in Burns' office, they very much make a clock that is set at 3 p.m. very, very prominent in the room. And you're going to notice if you look that not every clock, but a lot of clocks and a lot of references are made to both 3 and 9 o'clock. And that is also going to come into play if you're trying to play along at home and put together all of the clues to figure out who is going to end up shooting Mr. Burns. But For right now, this brings us to the end of our first act, and we are going to take a quick break to hear from some buddies of ours.
What up, everybody? This your boy B-Rob, the host of the Random Ramblers with Rob podcast, to where we have random guests and we have random conversation. I don't know why we're saying we, because it's just me, but I guess it's we in the sense that I have a guest weekly, airs every Sunday and everything. So I guess it's we like that. We French. So check it out. Go to randomrobcast.com or check me out on Instagram at Random Ramblers with Rob, or Twitter at It's B-Rob, ITSBROB. Whoa.
Hi, I'm MrMostDaysOff. You might remember me from such podcasts as the I Love Lisa review, and so it's come to this, a Simpsons clip show. I brought a friend along with me today to talk to you about an exciting new product.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Richie the WizKid.
Miles, did you know that most people have no idea how to get a Best Darn Diddly t-shirt?
You can get a t-shirt with a podcast logo on it? I had no idea.
If you go to tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly, you'll find not only shirts, but also Best Darn Diddly hoodies, posters, mugs, and even phone and laptop cases. And that's good news for everybody.
That is good news for everybody.
And did you know the Best Darn Diddly products are also inflammable?
Richie, that means they catch on fire.
I had no idea.
Help support the Best Darn Diddly review show by buying our stuff at tpublic.com/bestdarndiddly. And do try to stay away from open flames.
Bye, everybody.
We come back for our second act at the dinner table in the Simpsons home as the Simpsons are discussing the good news of the school's newfound money. Marge is really excited because it's going to provide opportunities, but Bart's just upset because they didn't approve his idea on account that they said it was unfeasible.
It is unfeasible to resurrect the dead, Bart. And even if the Three Stooges were alive, I doubt they'd want to hang around with you.
Oh yeah, I guess they'd probably want to be with their families or something, huh?
I don't know why. I've always loved that line where it's like Bart has a really good reason why it wouldn't work out, but he just completely misses the point. He's not mad at the moments where you think Bart would respond angry, like last week with Lemon and Troy, when he hears Marge's voice in his head, and he's like, "Huh? So, oh yeah, it did stick with me." And he's like not upset or mad about it, where he's like genuinely acting nice about it. I love those moments. It's just a different side than how you'd actually respond.
Bart has a lot of moments that are really funny because it's just taken in such a creative way. And Bart is in a lot of ways has a very creative, if not sometimes destructive quality about him. But this creative side pops out in funny ways. And I think this is an example of that, where his interpretation is a fair one. I mean, that's a valid point. If those Three Stooges did come back from the dead, they probably would want to hang out with their families, assuming they were still alive. But in his mind, he doesn't even think about the fact that the raising of the dead is the hard part about this.
It's outside the box thinking from within the joke itself, and that's it's The Simpsons.
There's a story that one of my improv coaches always tells that I think is funny that would fit in nicely here, and that's that he talks about this one time about making your initiations clear, and one time a student of his started a scene by saying the coast is clear, and his scene partner replied by saying, "Yeah, there's not a single seashell anywhere on this beach." Whoa. Yeah, just kind of like this weird, oh, yeah, there's so many different ways you can look at the world sometimes.
Yeah.
But Homer is stuck in a rut in a completely different way. Well, I guess a more familiar way. He's finally coming to the realization after 6 seasons and almost a movie, as you've said, that his boss does not know his name, and he doesn't even want to go into work. I mean, what's the point? But as usual, Marge is there to cheer him up.
"When my father was first trying to catch my mother's eye, he sent her a box of candy with his photo on it. After that, she never forgot him."
Well, that's all well and good, but it's not really your idea, is it now, Marge? What a dick.
Yep.
But in such a funny way. Burns is becoming obsessed with this oil derrick that's being built at the school. I mean, he doesn't want someone else getting ahead of him, essentially, right? He wants to have all of the money.
That's it. Fumble about with your widgets and doobobs. It will all be a monument to futility when my plan comes to fruition.
Sir, what I'm about to say violates every sycophantic urge in my body, but I wish you'd reconsider. This isn't a rival company you're battling with. It's a school. People won't stand for
Pish
it.
posh. It will be like taking candy from a baby. Say, that sounds like a laugh. Let's try it out right now.
We can see that Smithers really struggles with the ethics of working for Mr. Burns in this episode, and he tries to keep his boss from literally stealing candy from a baby by distracting him with the candy that was sent by the Simpsons family. We see them start to eat chocolates out of a box, and they start to reveal members of the family. And the great part is Burns recognizes each and every one of them.
Ah, yes. I believe that's little Maggie Simpson, the baby who found my precious teddy bear Bobo. Oh, and that's Simpson Mutt, my former guard dog. Oh, and, that's Bart Simpson. He was my heir for a brief period, you know.
Yes, sir, I remember.
Anything left?
Only the sour kinslog, sir.
You dispose of it. And, send a thank you note to Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie Simpson.
And unfortunately for Homer, the one chocolate they did not want was the one covering his face, and it was the only one not to get revealed, so he did not actually get credit for this gesture. Though it's really funny that he recognizes everyone, including even the dog. Though, interesting, there's another clue right here, as Mr. Burns labels Santa's little helper, not by name, but as the Simpsons Mutt. SM, Richie, SM. Interesting.
I never would have
Whatever could it mean?
I never would have thought that was a clue.
There are so many in here. So we've already talked about it enough that we can go ahead and say that the clock clue was by design to teach you that things can be read that would be opposite, basically. Because if you look at a 9 o'clock upside down, it would look like 3 o'clock. And if you look at a 3 o'clock time upside down, it would look like 9 o'clock. That becomes important later. The SM and WS are initials that we are finding lots and lots of characters to have. And you'll notice that if you flip them upside down, they are actually would read the same. So WS and a name like, I don't know, Waylon Smithers would read the same as SM, which would be...
We have no idea.
Which would read the same as MS, which would be a name like, I don't know, we already heard earlier that it was W.S. Skinner instead of just Seymour Skinner. So there's a lot of them. Sideshow Mel, other characters that we'll come across as we go along, and even more names that will be revealed just for the purpose of these clues.
Mutt, Simpson.
Interesting.
Yeah, but there are definitely a lot of 3 o'clocks all over this episode.
Yep, there really are. Skinner is at the school for a dedication ceremony. They're about to tap the oil well, and he's very proud. Today, Springfield Elementary embarks on a new era, an era of unbridled spending, where petrodollars will fuel our wildest educational fantasies. These young minds will enjoy every academic advantage till they enter Springfield High School, which has no oil well.
We've got an air hockey table.
Fine. Now, to switch on our oil pump for the very first time, here's our top student, Lisa Simpson.
Nerd!
We see Lisa throw the switch and a large rumble occurs, but no oil is produced, just a drop.
There's no pressure. Someone else has tapped this well.
And we see, watching out from the crowd, Tito Puente. Ay caramba! We follow the oil derrick's pipe all the way down into the core of the earth, where the oil well that was tapped also has another spigot coming at it from an angle. and we follow it up to see another oil derrick, this one from the Burns Slant Drilling Company.
Oh, that sly devil. Ah, soon that mighty apparatus will burst forth with its precious fluid. Almost sexual, isn't it, Smithers? He had his moments.
There was an opportunity there, wasn't there?
And oh, does it spurt forth from that spigot.
It actually comes out really hard at an angle. Yep, that just happened.
Phrasing.
And it splashes all over Bart and Santa Little Helper's face. Yeah, I did that.
Huzzah!
The scene actually gets really dark really fast because it absolutely obliterates Bart's treehouse, and Santa's Little Helper and Bart go flying to the ground. Bart is clearly limping and injured, but Santa's Little Helper is pinned under some debris. And again, this is really sad. I mean, you know how I am with dogs. It's tough to watch a dog in peril, and this dog is definitely included in that list.
Yeah, and you're starting to get little glimpses here, starting with this moment, on top of just Smithers and Skinner, for people that are going to be pissed off at Burns.
As Marge will later say in this episode, everyone in town has a motive to be angry with Mr. Burns. Every single person. So we're starting to fill in some of these clues, and maybe some of them are intentionally there to mislead us, and potentially some of them are more obvious than we first realized.
Yep.
We see the Simpsons family in the vet waiting room waiting on the results of Santa's Little Helper, who has just been upgraded from a stable condition to a frisky one. However, his hind legs both appear to be in bandages, and he actually has to wheel himself around. And just to make matters worse, he has to wear the cone of shame, to which Nelson is standing by with his pet parrot, and of course has to get his ha-ha.
But we also have that moment before that where Bart says that he's going to get even with whoever did this to his dog. He swears it too. Like, he looks devilishly evil when he says it.
He sure does. And he is angry, and rightfully so. I mean, if you hurt my dogs, I'd want to get revenge as well.
And as we all know, Bart's real name is Walter.
Just to make it fit. So the school finds out that they don't actually have any legal recourse against Burns. Whoever pumps it first is who it belongs to. And everyone's upset because they're not going to get all the expensive stuff that they wanted.
Blast it!
In fact, to pay for the construction and operation and demolition of our new derrick, the school will have to eliminate all non-essential programs. Music.
Aye!
And we see Tito punch through his bongos. And maintenance.
Arg! I'll kill that Mr. Burns! And, wound that Mr. Smithers out of my way!
2 more candidates that would have a reason to be angry with Burns.
Well, 3 if you count Lisa.
That's true, because Lisa just gets the word from her newfound jazz instructor, who she will not be having. She learns that the power plant has thrown a kink in her plan, and she's even upset that her father could work for such an awful man like Mr. Burns.
Well, he's not all bad. He did send me this nice thank you card.
Marge, Bart, Lisa, and Maggie. Dad, this doesn't even have your name on it. We see Homer start to read the card closely.
Kids, would you step outside for a second?
The kids scatter, and we just hear a very, very loud start to an F word, and then a church organ plays as birds fly away, and even poor old Ned Flanders. Dear Lord, that's the loudest profanity I've ever heard.
But you see it in Homer, though. He stands up, he cocks back.
Well, and just another fun little tidbit and great, genius move on the Simpsons writer's part, or whoever made this choice. Maybe it was the director, I don't know. But the note that plays on the church organ is in fact an F chord.
Brilliant.
Indeed. You know, another group of individuals that we see quite a bit of in Springfield are being negatively affected by Burns's sideways oil drilling. It seems that the fumes from the oil derrick are actually filling Moe's bar.
These fumes aren't as fun as beer. Sure, I'm all dizzy and nauseous, but where's the inflated sense of self-esteem?
Hey, if you guys are getting loaded of these fumes, I'm gonna have to charge you. We see two scientists walk through the door that are wearing full-on biohazard suits.
Man alive! There are, men alive in here.
I love how surprised he is by that news. A woman next to him is holding a beeping detector. I'm detecting over 20 different toxins in the air. And after Barney's huge burp, the beeping actually increases dramatically.
All right, everybody out. As long as Burns is pumping oil, this bar is closed.
Damn Burns, let me just get one thing. And he pulls a shotgun out from behind the bar.
Me too. He pulls out his little handgun.
But his line is, it's just a tiny little handgun, but his line is great.
Ah, now there's the inflated sense of self-esteem.
That's the American way.
I've always thought that like, for some reason, when Moe pulls out the shotgun, like, it doesn't bother me at all. But even as a kid, when I see Barney pull out the pistol, I'm always like...
He is way too drunk for that. Yeah.
Well, and it always felt super dark to me. Like, why does he have it in the first place, man?
It seems like a lot of people in Springfield are packing. Before we move on from Moe's, who now has created even more enemies for Burns, we get another major clue in this episode where we learn for the very first time that Moe has a last name, and it's given to us on his liquor license in the back of the bar where we see Moe Sislak, and that is another MS.
I wonder if they just came up with his last name for this episode.
They did.
All right, that's really cool.
That's what
actually.
Most of these names, like the W and Skinner, and a lot of these are done intentionally to... Even, I'll give away, spoiler alert, it's not Sideshow Mel, and that's the reason they give him his full name, so that we are thrown to the point that it's like, oh, okay, if he has a real name, then they're trying to say he's not a MS or a WS.
Very interesting. So much thought went into this.
Indeed. Yeah, I actually have more to talk about with that later. I'm excited to get to, but let's get a little bit farther through for now, because there's still more enemies to be had. You see, at the Springfield Retirement Castle, there's an earthquake, they think. But it turns out that it is actually the cavern that's been sucked out from underneath because Burns has taken all the oil that apparently used to be a very big part of the foundation of the retirement castle.
Well, I think it's just because of the drilling going on directly underneath them. We're like even breaking the land right next to them and rumbling everything down there in general. Like, I could see where it works out that way.
Sure.
I guess. Cartoon, Miles.
Exactly. Back with Smithers and Burns, we see that Smithers is trying to, I guess, kind of just calm Burns a little bit. Well, sir, you've certainly vanquished all of your enemies. The elementary school, the local tavern, the old age home. You must be very proud. We see Burns is just stuffing ridiculous amounts of money into wallets, and he's just got money everywhere.
No, not while my greatest nemesis still provides our customers with free lights, heat, and energy. I call this enemy the sun.
And we see he goes to his desk and kind of flips a switch, and it opens up and reveals a model of Springfield.
Since the beginning of time, man has yearned to destroy the sun. I will do the next best thing. Block it out.
Burns hits another button, and a miniature model of his plan comes to life, and we see a big disc rise up on a tower that literally blocks all of the sunlight from Springfield. Good God!
Imagine it, Smithers. Electrical lights and heaters running all day long.
But sir, every plant and tree will die. Owls will deafen us with incessant hooting. The town's sundial will be useless.
That's a big clue right there.
That's a major clue. I don't want any part of this project. It's unconscionably fiendish.
I will not suffer your insubordination. There has been a shocking decline in the quality and quantity of your toiting, Waylon, and you will fall into line now.
No, Monty, I won't. Not until you step back from the brink of insanity.
I'll do no such thing. You're fired!
Smithers walks out, and we see Burns starts to stomp on his miniature models of Springfield, and he's laughing. It's very much like out of Godzilla, almost. He's a literal movie monster right now.
Take that, Bolorama!
Smash!
Take that, Convenience Mart!
Smosh!
Take that, nuclear power plant!
Dent...
Oh, fiddlesticks.
And that is actually going to bring us to the end of our second act. We've got another act to go to wrap up, well, really just to reveal this mystery that we're going to make you wait for. But we'll be right back after a quick break for Act 3 of Who Shot Mr. Burns, Part 1.
And now it's time for our favorite part of the show. What's that say? Ads and sponsorship. Ugh, this is gonna be a real nightmare. Okay, what do you got for me? Patreon.com? What the hell is that? And they just give us money for it? Oh, if only we had that around in the 70s. Make sure you ask your mommies and daddies to send money to bestdarndiddly at patreon.com so they can drive a dump truck full of money up to our houses. Uh-oh. I said the loud part quiet and the quiet part loud.
Just like the second act, we start off the third act in the Simpsons kitchen, where the Simpsons family is discussing the news in terms of Mr. Burns and how awfully inconsiderate and selfish even that he's being.
Burns needs some serious boostafazoo, right, Dad? Dad? Homer!
They pull the newspaper down, and it's not Homer, it's actually Abe Simpson, which startles the children. As they actually thought that he had melted. Well, get used to it, because I'm living here now, and I ain't going back to the retirement home until they fish my bed out of that sinkhole.
Strained carrots for Maggie, strained carrots for Grandpa.
I want a bib, too. Well, we see Homer driving, and he's starting to maybe be going a bit insane as he's seeing phantoms appear of Mr. Burns that are saying things like,
Smithers, who is that ignoramus? Smithers, who is that lollygagger? Who is the blubberbot? Who is that baffleweed? Lummox? Puddinghead? Beanhead? Goon? Goldbricker? Goofball? Drizzlepuss? Fumblefist?
Stop it! They actually end up crashing through the nuclear power plant's fence because Homer actually covered his eyes whenever he yelled out.
There's a little gate entry point at the plant.
And the guard's like, just a minute.
Then he raises
the stub. So this is that example I was talking about with Bill Oakley and Josh Weinstein, because they just, this was a huge flurry of just old-timey names, essentially. They gave a lot of credit to the thesaurus, but Dave Merkin said that that's not accurate, that they're just really talented when it comes to writing these dialogues for the Burns and Abe characters.
Nice. I've always enjoyed how much Merkin actually gives credit to everyone he works with.
Yeah, it does seem like he shares the love quite a bit. There's times where he does be a little bit narcissistic or egocentric, but it's because he's being sarcastic as fuck, I think.
Yeah, well, just to stereotype people, I feel like I'm about half of a Merkin on my personality, and a lot of the times you don't expect those people to share the credit in those regards, where they're kind of like a loner that it's like, no, I did all this hard work in a dark room and I want credit, but he seems like the complete opposite of that, and he has for the last 2 seasons, and I think that's fantastic. Makes me like him even more.
Maybe something we'll dive more into when we do our season 6 finale spectacular. Just next week.
Spectacular.
It's gonna be a good time.
Yeah, that means you have to wait an extra week before you find out who done it.
Yep, you're never gonna find out. Don't Google it. Wait for us. Burns actually arrives at his office to find that Homer Simpson is already waiting for him there. And when he turns on the light, he sees Homer's revealed.
Who the devil are you?
Homer is actually painted, "I am Homer Simpson," in spray paint, very bright and big on the wall, and he starts rushing at Burns to shake him. Homer Simpson!
What?
Homer Simpson!
What are you talking about?
Homer!
You're not making sense, man.
Shut up! Homer Simpson!
I can't understand a word you're saying.
My name is Homer Simpson!
You're just babbling incoherently.
My name is Homer! You're dead, man, Burns! You're dead! You're dead, Burns!
And the guards drag Homer out of the office. What I like about the scene is I believe in the second part to this episode, they'll redo the scene in a hospital scenario where Homer's doing the same thing to Burns. And instead of Burns not understanding anything Homer's saying, the only thing Burns can say is his name. So we need to watch out for that when we review the second act, because I think it's supposed to be a mirror of this scene.
Oh, have fun. Yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye out for that when we get back for season 7 in just a few short weeks. Whoop whoop. Already got a lot of really cool guests lined up, so it's going to be a good time. But again, we'll talk more about that next week. We still got more of season 6, just one final act to talk about. I cannot believe we're almost through this season, but this episode still going strong. We get back to the Simpsons home, and this might be my favorite line of the episode in terms of just like the joke that made me laugh the most, because we get Abe Simpson as Santa's little helper runs by with his cone of shame and his little wheelie thing that he's got. Hey, the lamp's running away.
That's my dog, man.
So long, lamp. Now stop loafing and help your grandpa unpack.
Wow.
We see that Abe pulls out a cigar box that has a gun inside of it. That's my old Smith & Wesson. If you're gonna play with it, be careful, because it's loaded.
Ah! Bart! Put that down. Guns are very dangerous, and I won't have them in this house.
How can you have a house without a gun? What if a bear came through that door?
I'm going to bury it in the yard where little hands can't get to it.
You should have fired it into the air. She would have run off.
Was Marge's line just a clue?
It does seem like it is allude to something that might happen.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
I'd never realized that till just now.
It's interesting when you read the script. I was having a lot of fun reading the script as they were talking about it in the commentary, which is why I was late for this episode, because I actually watched it like 2 extra times. Because there really are just so many clues in this one. It's incredible.
I've got a raging clue right now.
The townspeople are getting fed up, and they actually organize a towns meeting where we see Mayor Quimby has taken the stage for now. People, take it easy. We're all upset about Mr. Burns' plan to block out our sun. It is time for decisive action. I have here a polite but firm letter to Mr. Burns' underlings, who, with some cajoling, will pass it along to him, or at least give him the gist of it.
Sir, a lot of people are stroking guns.
Also, it has been brought to my attention that a number of you are stroking guns. Therefore, I will step aside and open up the floor.
Mr. Burns was the closest thing I ever had to a friend, but he fired me. And now I spend my days drinking cheap scotch and watching Comedy Central.
Oh, dear God.
It's not that bad. I never miss Pardon My Zinger.
Oh, interesting that he pointed out that show, and I forgot to mention it earlier, but when we were at Moe's Tavern, there was an ad playing on the TV for a show called Pardon My Zinger, which airs each and every day at 3 p.m. on Comedy Central.
Wow.
Another little clue for you.
A raging clue. Burns cost me my groundskeeping job at the school, and I'm too superstitious to take the one at the cemetery.
Because of him, I lost my room, my things, and my buddy's collection of all sunbathing magazines.
You bastard!
I lost my bar.
I lost his bar!
Basically, we go through and learn that literally everybody in town has something against Mr. Burns.
He robbed the school of Tito!
From Lisa being robbed of music, from Homer not having him remember his name. Marge is upset because it's given everyone a cause to yell. And, of course, Bart is still upset with what he did to his best friend.
Even Maggie is sucking her pacifier violently.
Yeah, everyone's upset. I do love when Bart's like, look what he did to my best friend, and we pan to Millhouse, who's just eating Cheetos. He's like, no, my dog, man. And that's when Burns himself enters the room chuckling very evilly.
Oh, those wheels are squeaking a bit. Perhaps I can sell him a little oil?
You twisted old monster! And Bart actually runs at him, and he gets right up to his face before Burns reveals that he actually brought a gun.
I've decided to protect myself ever since I was attacked in my office by an unidentified assailant.
Go! Arr, Burns, your scurvy schemes will earn ye a one-way passage to the boneyard.
I'd like to hear from Sideshow Mel. I'll see to it that Mr. Burns suffers the eternal machinations of Hell's grim tyrant.
Yeah!
Oh, you all talk big, but who here has the guts to stop me?
And we actually pan across the audience, and almost every single member of the crowd turns or averts their eyes. All but one character.
Mm-hmm. Very well. One last question. Have you ever seen the sunset at 3 p.m.?
Ah, once, when I was sailing round the...
Shut up, you!
So, Burns declares that it's lights out for Springfield. Take one last look at the sun, he says, because it is going to be night-night for now on. He actually raises a giant shield, just like he did in his office before, but this one blocks out all of the sun, and he leaves the meeting laughing maniacally as he has just taken control of all of the power in Springfield, even from his biggest nemesis, the sun. Just then we see Krusty the Clown pull up in a car, squealing and late as usual, and he comes panting to the door.
I've been in Reno for 6 weeks. Did I miss anything?
Everyone is staring at him and they look pissed. Everyone is trying to come to terms with the eternal darkness, but Burns is just having a field day. There's a funny line where Apu is like, oh man, where's that gun-toting lowlife when you need one?
Sorry, I was in the can.
But Burns is happy as can be. He's kind of doing a little almost song and dance, but he's really just kind of talking to himself. They said in the commentary this was an homage to Simon and Garfunkel. I was unfamiliar, to be honest. We get a couple of very quick glimpses at the town hall where Carl notices, that's odd, Mr. Smithers left his jacket behind. We then cut and see that Otto notices,
whoa, that's odd. Principal Skinner left his mother behind.
Where could these gentlemen be? We see Marge load Maggie and Santa's little helper into the back of the car, but she cannot find Homer, Bart, Lisa, or Grandpa. Mr. Burns is humming and walking down the street, and we see that another glimpse, and this time to the Simpsons' own yard, where the cigar box has been dug up, and the gun, the Smith & Wesson SW, another clue, Richie, that I didn't point out earlier, that it is missing and not in the yard where little hands can't get to it.
This is getting very, very dark all of a sudden, Miles.
It really is, and Burns is kind of gloating to himself as he walks in the darkness that he caused.
You can only see a silhouette up on a building right now, I believe, too. After all these years, things are finally starting to go my way. I feel like celebrating. Oh, it's you. What are you so happy about? I see. I think you'd better drop it. I said, drop it. Get your hands off.
We see the camera cut back to Marge, who's still looking for everyone, and that's when we hear the gunshot in the distance. Burns stumbles from around the corner, gasping at his bullet wound on his left side of the chest. He actually passes Jimbo, and I can totally see why Richie might have thought this as a child. Hey man, are you okay?
I won't dignify that with a response.
And there is a very quick clue right here in the form of a freeze frame. For just a split moment, Burns' jacket opens and it's revealed that his gun is not in his pocket as we saw it earlier. His gun holster is empty. Anyone in town could have it. But with one final motion, we see Burns land on what Mr. Smithers has already identified as just a useless old sundial.
Absolutely. It should have no importance or be the biggest clue in the episode at all.
His arms are spread in an interesting manner. We see him collapse from the bottom of the sundial with his arms stretched outward, straight ahead of him and to his right.
Mr. Burns has been shot.
Just a minute. This isn't Mr. Burns at all. It's a mask. And we see Wiggum is pulling at his face. Oh, wait. It is Burns. His wrinkly skin. It looks like a mask.
I don't think we'll ever know who did this. Everyone in town's a suspect.
And we actually get the camera start to pan through all of the people that are on this scene. It's almost everybody in town because they just had this meeting.
Well, I couldn't possibly solve this mystery. Can you?
And we see Hibbert pointing directly at the camera, at the fourth wall, I should say. And it's, of course, a nod to the fact that this was, in fact, a real contest that they are running of who could solve all these clues, some of which we pointed out here today, some of which we probably did not, because I'm not certain I've seen them all with how many there are. But, of course, this also becomes a joke because the Simpsons are geniuses, and it backs out, and we see Wiggum once again. Yeah, I'll give it a shot. I mean, you know, it's my job, right? And that ends our third act and the episode, Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 1. We get some music over the closing credits that is much more somber and serious than normal, and it is commonly mistaken as a parody of Terminator 2 for some reason. There's a lot of people that think that this is the music from Terminator, maybe something to do with like the fact that Arnold comes back. I literally have no idea. I just spit that off the top of my head.
Yeah.
It is actually, according to the commentary, a parody of the music that plays at the end of the movie JFK, which makes a lot more sense for the mystery and the conspiracy aspect of all of this that went into it.
And we hear a shot over the Gracie film music as well.
Yeah, there's a gunshot at the very end, which is kind of cool. And this in real life was how you left your season 6 of The Simpsons, and you would have to wait the whole summer. Maybe you, like Richie, submitted a response to the contest. Maybe you were just a fan and you were anxiously waiting to find out who this mysterious person could possibly be. Or maybe you discovered the show well after it aired and this was like no big deal because they were playing back to back. I don't know your life, but I do know that we are going to make you wait here on the off chance that there is anybody who actually listens to this podcast that does not know the culprit. Well, it's going to be 2 weeks away because next week we're coming back for our finale spectacular, and it'll be 2 weeks from now before we come back with Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 2.
It was groundskeeper.
For now, however, Richie, however, do you have anything else to add, or does that book have anything to say about Who Shot Mr. Burns Part 1?
My book, The Simpsons, A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family, pointed out a whole lot of the number threes and the clocks all over the place. Even the TV in Moe's Bar, like what you said, where the show starts at 3 o'clock. And it's just, it also said that the TV at Moe's was tuned to Mystery Science Theater 3000, which...
It was like the Mystery Science people over the show that with Smithers watches, I believe.
Very, very smartly done there, Simpsons writers. But other than that, I wanted to point out that I thought it was odd that Marge put Maggie in the car. Marge left Maggie alone, walked over to the other side of the town, heard a shot, and then instead of going towards the shot, in the next sequence, she's got Maggie in her hands. So Marge had a lot of time by herself there. I feel like Marge should be a suspect.
Remind me what Marge's initials are again?
M and S. Even though the shot was heard while she was on screen by herself. Something doesn't add up with her.
There's something interesting, but like Marge herself pointed out, everyone in town
Trying to put the blame on other people.
Everyone in town has a motive, to say the least.
One last thought, Miles. I did think it was Jimbo because Mr. Burns didn't even want help from him. And it just makes sense where, like, I thought maybe an accident occurred with Jimbo. And
well, like, his response of, like, I wouldn't even dignify that with a response, as in, like, you already know, dude.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
Yeah.
That's why I thought, it's Jimbo. But when I was a kid, I never got any of the 3 o'clock stuff at all.
No, I did not get this. I'll admit I completely whiffed and had really no idea. I didn't catch almost any of the clues when I first watched it at all, really. But I will say that there was a lot of work put into this episode. Again, there really is a way to eliminate every single suspect with the clues. Like, you can figure out what you need to know, how you need to find out, where you can narrow down the field, and then from that field, you have an alibi or a way to mathematically eliminate each and every suspect except for one. And that one is, of course, whodunit, who will be revealed after we get back from our summer vacation.
Were they the only one that didn't back down in that one line from Mr. Burns?
It was, in fact, the only person that did not look away. There was only one person in the whole crowd in that sequence of who has the guts to stop me, and that character kept staring right at Mr. Burns.
I want to rewatch
while
this again.
Everyone
now
else
for
looked
that.
away. Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool to see. But Merkin actually himself says that this was probably the hardest that they ever worked on an episode at his time on The Simpsons, because it was so important to them that they really wanted to give you everything that you needed to solve it. That if you were able to follow the clues and work it out and not get caught up in the red herrings, you could actually figure this mystery out. And one person did. There was a person that actually just days after the episode aired had emailed Bill Oakley and had gotten it correct with all of the correct clues and had eliminated everybody for the right reasons. He actually didn't officially submit to the contest in the right manner, but Bill Oakley was like, oh, well, I'm going to go ahead and send the guy a prize anyway because he totally got it right. But unfortunately, this was the early days of the internet. He was emailed from a college email address, and over the summer break, that email address was no longer active when they went to hunt him down. Now, they did attempt to find the guy, and as of the time of the recording, they never did. It was a total mystery. So a mystery begotten from a mystery.
See, I thought I heard that somebody did win the contest, like straight up won it when I was a kid, and I thought they were like getting drawn into an episode or something.
We will find out more. They did not talk about the contest winners from this, but he did talk about the one person who got it first. So there might be contest winners. We're going to find that out. I honestly do not know. I'll find out when I watch the commentary for Season 7, Episode 1, which I cannot believe we're already to Season 7. This is kind of crazy.
And then on a dark note this year.
We really are, and a mystery to be solved. But that's going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Make sure you follow Richie the WizKid at thewiz_kid23. I'm at MrMostDaysOff, and more importantly, follow us at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. It works on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. Richie and I once again want to thank you so much for joining us on this journey through the golden age and beyond of the Simpsons series. We look forward to being back with you next week when we are going to have our Season 6 finale spectacular.
Spectacular! I was about to bust this case wide open, and now everyone in town's a suspect. Too many clues, not enough time, not enough scotch. Maybe I'll just have to wait till the Best Darn Diddly guys get back. I'm gonna need some help on this.
And we'll be back. But until next time, be cromulent to each other.
What's up, UFOnauts? It's your UFO guy, Rob Christofferson. Have you ever been curious about the UFO phenomenon, but unsure of where to start? Have you ever wondered about just what crashed at Roswell? Have you ever wanted common sense advice about licking UFOs? The answer's don't. Then check out the Our Strange Skies podcast, where we dive into America's rich UFO history and uncover what these sightings say about ourselves. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and most podcast apps, as well as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Don't forget to look up, because you never know what you'll find in Our Strange Skies. In Gray we trust.